So when Paul and Kyle asked me to talk about this, I think this has been a concept or a topic that, has been touched on over the last 18 months, 2 years. We've been hearing this at conferences, here at ASOTU CON, here at DMSC, MRC, NADA, right? Maybe 2 years ago, everybody was a CDP, right? That's all you heard was CDP, whether you knew what it was or not. But the underlying concept of that was, we have a lot of dirty data. You heard Ryan Rohrman talk about that this morning. It's dirty, or, not smoke where someone's changing it, but all of you have that, and anyone in the dealership or marketing or whatever position you are. Glenn is in there as Glenn Pasch with one email, G Pasch as another email or a phone number, and there's 5 people in there, and they're all getting outreach, or they have some email that they don't look at. So there's so much wasted potential from a marketing standpoint, but also from a labor standpoint, because how many of those leads is your team trying to reach out, and they're not answering a phone and they're not answering an email, but I got to make those 100 phone calls and I got to send out my bazillion emails, or else I'm not going to get, I'm going to get yelled at. And I think everybody finally realized, because we now have that capability in automotive, it's been outside of automotive for a while, where what if we could cleanse the data? What if we could combine all of them into one record, very much like your credit report, right? It has everything, every phone number you ever had, every email, but it's you. And what could we do with that data? Because just because we cleanse it, right? You were saying earlier before we started, it's not just getting the clean data. That's one piece. Or for your, tool now is I can see everything. I can see that record. I can see what marketing they dealt with. I can see when they bought. I can see all of this data. But if it's not actionable, if I don't do anything with it, all I have is a bunch of clean data. But that's just a piece. So that's where we're going to start. But we want to go down that road. So for you, Phil, when you were talking earlier about the data, now you are moved, again, I don't know how long, but you're on Techion.
Yeah,
right?
That's correct.
And so first, talk about not just their capabilities, but what is this idea of cleansing this data? Why was that important to you? Obviously switching to their DMS with promises of aggregating all this data, easy access, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they have delivered on that aspect. So talk to you from the dealer's perspective. Why was data so important? This idea of cleanliness, and where are you at on that journey of clean to usable data?
Yeah, so I thought we were doing pretty good until I came here. But the move to Techion happened a little over 3 years ago, and the main reason there was what we identified was who's a partner that we think is setting up a structure and a data structure that is actionable moving forward, right? Because you could tell that, okay, there's all these different applications that we're using. How easily accessible is that data? What can my people see when they pull up information in the DMS, and how quickly can they get to information, right? Like a great example. You're a service advisor and you want to see if a customer's got a vehicle service contract and tire and wheel coverage and whatever other else F&I products, right? Prior to Techion, we were on CDK. Only thing you could see, vehicle service contract. You're missing out on several other revenue generating areas, right? Techion is just a drop down, right? I can see exactly what it is. If it's active, it's going, right? So part of this journey is cleaning it up, and then part of it, or giving it a good area to be viewed, because Techion isn't a platform to, you can clean up your data and see it, but it doesn't do it automatically, right? So you've got to work on that. But it helps in the way of keeping one record as clean as possible without creating duplicates, because you can easily find it. And then we've gone to, with Drive Centric, and then we brought in FullPath as a partner as well. FullPath does a really nice job of bringing out information from Techion and Drive Centric to clean that data that we can use for action items as well, right? But there's a few, and we can talk about it as we get into that, but There's a lot of different ways we're using these different platforms and then putting process around it to try to make sure when the customer's standing in front of us, we can have a legible conversation. And when we're messaging the customer, we can make sure we're hitting the right customer with the right message.
Great. And what I love about that, and I hope you picked up on that, is you had the vision of where you wanted to go and you started finding partners to help add that in. I always, I'm always recommending to people when you come to conferences like this, you can get wowed by products, but they may not be right for you, right? And you have to really understand what your process is, what you're trying to accomplish, because then you can ask better questions for that. But what I liked also about that is finding the products now, because they're out there, where you don't have to log in to find 5 things. So for your, prior to that, you said, oh, I can see the service contract. Well, I have to go log in somewhere else to go see if they had wheel and tire. And I had to log in over here to see this, and that's never happening. They're settling at the first, the least path of resistance, and that's all I'm going to do. So there is this idea now of so many pockets of opportunity of revenue. And again, I really liked, just what Ryan said this morning, is you don't need more leads. You have so many people in your database. How are we really taking care of them? The new ones will always come in, and you'll still do that. But is there more inside that DMS? Now, so for you, Tony, Reynolds has now become more out here, forward-facing. Their CRM is now, being talked about in very complementary ways. I've seen the product, I've used it with some of my clients, and I'm amazed at what it's doing now. And now with the evolution of Curator, aggregating all of this to do exactly what you're saying, I can see everything in one place. So talk to us about, again, talking about this problem of data and how this integration of all these tools now are delivering this value to your customers.
Well, I'll start with a little bit of history. So a few years ago, we were talking to one of our larger enterprise customers, and he had some frustration that notes that he was putting in the CRM were not showing up in F&I. And that we are the DMS and the CRM for his product, that should be there. That shouldn't have been a problem, right? So this is a problem we have to look for a solution and solve this for our customers. And we also had the cleansing of the data and email appends and address correction, things like that, when we had our naked line product, and we still do some of that. And that we take the data up and we cleanse it and do the hygiene. And we had a process of maybe moving down records, and if we fix the addresses and things at the DMS, on the MMS level, the naked line level, we could fix it at the DMS level. But we still didn't have that unified record across the spectrum of the Reynolds system that dealer was using. So as we started moving towards solutions, we created basically that one record, that one identifier for a customer within the DMS across all the stores, right? So there was just one unified customer. That was step one. Step two, you talked about what do you do with that, right? So we needed a partner to start say, what are we going to do? How do we activate this data? Because you're correct that the dealers are sitting on all that first-party data and all that valuable data. They're paying a lot for leads when they have so much data themselves, right, they could just go and take advantage of. So how do we help them do that? And so we partnered with FullPath. We're a similar situation here where FullPath plugs into our CDP that we have across our DMS, and we can do this audience activation. So, and that product is called Curator. And within Curator, we'll set you up with over 100 audiences to start with. And it'll hit every VIN in your system as it runs through. They're very dynamic. Customer, as the customer journey moves from place to place, that person will fall into a different audience and get a different email or text campaign, depending on what you have set up. But the other key thing we've done with Curator is with focus, like you talked about, with our CRM. We want that data to be connected with the CRM. We see the Curator and CRM as one platform with different users using it. Curator is primarily going to be used by the marketing manager or the sales manager, someone who's responsible for doing the marketing decisioning making for the dealership, maybe the internet manager, whereas the CRM is for the salesperson. Well, once we put up Curator with some of our customers, what I heard back was it was this really nice sentiment from the manager was, this is finally, for the marketing manager, this is finally connecting all the work we're doing in marketing with the sales process. So now the marketing process and the marketing campaigns and the marketing strategy now fit right into the sales process at the dealership, because the salesperson was seeing the sales journey for that customer, or the car journey for that customer, whether it's service or sales. They're seeing everything, all the emails that went out, all the service visits they had, all the emails they opened, all the VDPs they were on, what they're searching for. That was all in the CRM real time as it's being picked up within Curator itself. And so, in addition, we have Curator Full Path has these data ups. These are people that are shopping on your website. They're your customers. They're on your website, but they haven't filled out a lead form yet. They haven't responded directly to an email for you yet. So you don't have them in your CRM yet as an active opportunity, but they are shopping. And now Curator can send that to the CRM, and the salesperson can know I can reach out to this person. Maybe I see they're shopping for this particular Jeep. I can send them an email about that, or reach out to them. I don't have to be creepy and say, I saw you were on my website. But I
hope not. That's.
But I can start the conversation, right? Because I want to anyway. I can say, hey, I'm following up, and I see what I have this great, Jeep that I think you would love, kind of thing. Or we were just in the meeting, the session that was in here talking about the used car inventory, because it's all part of the CDP. It's in the garage. And when you get into the cleansing, we are also cleansing the garage and make sure we know what vehicle they actually have in the garage. You can start making offers for their trade because you want them to come in, because you know what they're shopping, they're in the market.
I think, again, it should be very exciting for dealers, because, and whatever role you're in, because we've been promised this for a while. And now you're starting to see this ability where I no longer have to just do spray and pray. I don't have to just send out messages, blanket messages, because I was having a conversation out at lunch and saying, when you get to the point that both of you are at, and I want to ask you how you specifically are using it, but this person was saying, now I know I'm going to have all of these smaller audiences, but no longer did the person who just got sold a car 3 months ago is going to get a tire special, or hey, buy a car, right? That's done. One, it saves me money. If it's an email blast, it's not really saving you money, but it's saving you trust, because I remember who this person is. And the person's like, they are talking one-on-one. And that's where this one voice is. You're getting to the point where you can really strategize all your outreach in a very one-on-one versus one-to-many, right? And so for you in the dealership, and you were saying, I tactically build these audiences, right? So if Full Path is can offer audiences, you're building audiences for them. Give us some specific examples of how you're now using this more cleansed data. What type of campaigns are you pushing out, and what type of results are you seeing?
Yeah, so I think what's important here, I want to circle back to something you said after my first comments, because I think it's important to understand this in the vision of stuff, right? So one of our great partners is Congruent. Now I guess it's More Than Cars Creative. And in branding our dealership, right, one of the things we focus on, it's our tagline of every commercial, is where you always feel the magic. Okay, so now I've got something to deliver on, right? This is the kind of guiding principle of why we're doing these things, right?
Right.
And so what I want to separate here is there's the customer experience in store, and then there's the customer experience out of store. So in cleansing the data, we're able to use, along with a great agency, we're able to give really targeted campaigns. So we have, like, one of our best converting campaigns are equity campaigns going out to customers, right? Hey, your car has equity. This is powered by Full Path and things along those lines. But you're talking about, we're activating, that campaign typically activates gets engagement from about 3,000 customers of ours a month, right? They're looking at the equity emails. Those emails, they open on average 62% of the time. Okay, click through at over 10% consistently. So they're going somewhere on our website with that, right? But over a 30-day period, on average, those emails are helping us produce 25 to 30 car deals. Okay, because we know that customer now with the Full Path CDP is that they've interacted with that. Now, that's not the only thing that's working, right? Because We can use that full path data to then hit them with more targeted campaigns on Facebook or Google or anything along those lines, knowing that because they're interacting with all that and it's all coming back into one area, right? So we know the journey much better to make sure our messaging is way more targeted. Now, the key to that is what happens when that customer comes in the store, right? That's where, it sounds like you guys are solving for as far as like somebody being able to see all that path, right? I don't have, unless my salesperson logs into another system, they can't see that. So that's not necessarily happening. So what we try to do is then how are we putting the customer into one system to make sure that the communication and everybody understands what's going on with that customer. So that's where, we are now on a very strong path to get total dealership utilizing the CRM for communication and interaction with customers, right? We're really great at it on the sales side. We're really great at it on the BDC side. We were really bad at it. On the service advisor side or the parts counter side, right? So now our last few months have been a big push into everybody go there, because as I can consolidate that communication and that data, my data just gets better, right? Because everybody can continue to pull out of that. We know when communication is going out. We know when we're starting campaigns in the CRM, and that just helps reinforce this loop. So I think there's some tactical stuff you can do on the ground to help make sure that your data is staying good and consistent, and people are able to track things better too. So,
and I think to your point, and my brain goes into process right away, but I think for all of you, if you listen to what you just said, is mapping out where that customer's going, right? So if you have a tool like a full path or a CDP, whatever your CDP is, once you build that audience, somebody's going to fall in and fall out based on the parameters. But once they go in and they go, okay, we're going to send you the equity email, then you have to follow, again, that decision tree. If they open it, what happens? If they don't, they go down this funnel. If they open and they click, they go here. If they don't click. Most important is once they click and they get here to the website and they do something and it goes in, who is going to go talk to them? Because maybe I don't want my salespeople talking to them because they're too hard, or I have to give them a script and say, this is how you talk to this one, right? So there has to be that training. Then to your point is when they come in, what are we doing? What's that experience? How we're handling? And that all has to be mapped out, or else all you're doing is you're going to have frustration either with the team or the point. But I love also getting everybody back into, in your case, using yours, same thing here, is that I can see everything, because then it just prepares your team. Your team wants to be successful. Your team wants to give a great experience, but nothing frustrates them more is like, I wish you would have told me that ahead of time. I wish I knew that. I would have mentioned that. And you say, oh yeah, but you had to log in. And to your point is, if as soon as you have to say you have to log into another, you might as well just stop, because it's not going to happen. So walk us through for you as well. So same thing, these equity campaigns and things like that. So give us a few examples of what some of your successful dealers, how they're leveraging it to turn it into more service revenue for retention purposes and also for more sales.
Right, and then I'll go beyond just the full path marketing side of it and talk more about, because Curator, its power is how it's combined with the CRM. So if you're a salesperson and you've had a marketing campaign to a customer, or they are a lead and they're out there and they come onto your website. Well, if you're on your CRM, you'll get a little message saying, hey, John Smith is on your website looking at this VDP, or John Smith is down in Gubagoo, looking at some cars, or in virtual retail or on chat, and you can go connect directly to him if he's in chat and things like that. So we're bringing in what's happening on the website right into your CRM, right where you're there. Now, the next thing we're doing is we're using AI as a tool to help the salesperson when the salesperson starts interacting with that customer, using the AI of sales enablement. We will bring forward that data that's so needed for them to know how I'm going to deal, how am I going to talk to this person that's either I'm in chat, or I'm going to send them a text, or I have an appointment for them, they're coming in, right? So the AI will bring things forward like that they're in equity. It'll highlight that for you. It'll bring forward things to you like the last time they were in service, or any maybe hot topic notes that may have come up, phone conversation, things that may have been, as with the phone AI may pick up that they were really interested in buying. It picked up a high intent to buy. Now you know that when they're coming in, or when you're going to reach out and talk to them. And then also provide, it'll provide, here's a suggested text that you want to send this customer. here's a suggested email to send this customer. You can tweak it, change it, but based on all the data that the AI sees there that's important about this customer, it'll make a suggestion for you. It'll also even give a suggestion of a phone script. So when you call them, you can look at the script and know what kind of points to hit, make sure you're doing that. So really enable and empower the salesperson to use the data that the marketing went out and generated. And that's where that dealer was saying, hey, finally my marketing strategy is connecting to my sales process.
Right, and it's starting to work. So let's talk about, we have about 10 minutes, and again, I definitely want to open up to questions. I'm not going to go use the app because I'm old. But for you, this all sounds good, and I know people sit in the audience, and I always sit in the audience and say, that sounds great, cleanse data, or it sounds great, he just went and he told his people, and my goodness, they all logged in. What were some of the hurdles that you faced once the data is clean, getting that, either your marketing agency to use it correctly, your team to use it, or to buy in, the struggle to get everybody in? Talk to us about that. How did you implement it? Because I think that's one of the biggest struggles for everyone. They leave here, it sounds great, but how do I actually get it done? So share that.
Yeah, I think the key word there is partnership, right? So the selection of FullPath involved my marketing team, right? Like they were on all the calls that we did, and they helped make the decision because I need them bought in to do it. I'm not the one doing that, right? So, I think it was important in involving, it's been important involving key players, because not only are we choosing the platform together, but we're setting the expectations of what we expect not only from the technology provider, but then from like my marketing team, right? Okay, if we're going with this, I expect you to use their APIs to target certain customer bases, right? I also expect us to go into their the CDP and create target audiences so we can send out customized offers to those people on a monthly basis, right? So like with anything, right? We got to have the clear expectations so you have something to measure against, right? And so if it's not happening, it's a very easy conversation. And if it is happening, then we can iterate even more, right? In store, it's kind of the same thing. It's creating the vision and making people understand why it's important. So it took a long time for us to convince our service department and service manager to use this, right? Now, it was like a year and a half of constant messaging of like, we need this to happen, right? And this is why. So it got to the point to where, when communication becomes a problem, hey, here's another reason why we should be doing this, because that person that answered the phone might have just been able to solve your problem, and now we got an upset customer and you're the one dealing with it, service manager, and you're wasting more time of your day when if we had it all in the system, we have easy access to it and we have quick response to it, right? So they got to see the why. And then once I got the buy-in, now all the tracking goes in place, right? So what's the activity look like? Does it match up pretty close to like the RO counts we've had that day? Are we seeing the outbound and inbound calls? The call review powers the back end stuff on that, makes it very easy to understand. That plugs into the CDP too, so that's really nice, right? So you have all these different things that are happening that allows trackability, and then you can hold people accountable to what those, again, setting expectations and holding it accountable. Usually what I find is that the persistence of it will ultimately, the persistence and holding things up as an example ultimately helps in getting the buy-in. So then once the buy-in's there, it usually becomes pretty easy, right? It's kind of like a car deal. Like I like to teach my team, we spend the majority of our time in a car deal should happen up front, because then when you get to the closing of the deal, well, if we've done everything right up front, that should be pretty easy, right? If we've shown all the right information up front to get the buy-in, then the execution and of the process and the expectation should be pretty easy.
Well, what I like about that is two words you used is persistence. You gave them the why. You're obviously showing them the wins and areas to move, and that idea of consistency. And I think that's one of the things we all have to combat as an industry. It's a very 30-day mentality. It didn't work fast enough. It's patience, Ryan again mentioned 18 months, you said 18 months, to get people to do something but if you really believe in it, you got to just whittle it down and wear them down till they don't have any other option, not from a berating or penalty or beat them up, but it's just, this is the way it's going to be. And they mentally make a choice in their head. So one last question, then I want to open it up to the floor. So from your perspective, you're on a different site. What are a couple things that, when they're adopting this strategy that you're having of curator, what's some of the feedback that you're getting in a positive way, or even I don't want to say frustrating, but this is a lot, and how do you help someone through that?
Okay, so on a positive, what I kind of explained with the data ups and connecting the marketing piece to the sales piece. That's the feedback we've consistently gotten, is that that's just eye-widening to them. Like that, we never expected to be able to have this type of actually seeing the marketing come all the way through to the salesperson, and the salesperson seeing where it's coming from and being able to, and with the AI helping them to talk to those customers. That's been the most positive impact. Right. So the problems we've seen and run into is the overwhelmingness of it, right? Especially if you're coming into a dealership that's never used a CDP before. And you show them the dashboards and show them the charts and how things are how their sales are going up or down over the past month, or their service going up or down the past month, and what do I do about this, and some of the struggles there. And what we found is, as their partner, as a provider, we got to provide some service with them to help them through that on a regular basis. One, the install out there and set things up. Like I said, we're going to set up over 100 audiences. So right away, they can be pretty turnkey for a lot of dealerships. As far as once the audiences are built, we're going to hit all the VINs, and people are going to fall dynamically through the different audience as they go through their journey. But all dealers want to go in there and do their own campaigns. Things are coming up. They want to sell certain types of cars. They want to do certain types of things. So they need to learn how to run those audiences and do that themselves. And we can go to a couple of ways. One, you can get a marketing firm, and you can have them help you do it using Curator, or you can go in there and build them yourselves, and that's what you can call on us, and we'll come in there and help you and say, well, how do I do this? I want to move this model this month, and I want to do some kind of specials. We can show you how to set up an audience to do that, and we'll work with you and help you set that up.
That's great. Any questions out here? You're all afraid. You're like, please let me out of this room. I don't want to listen anymore, but that's okay.
Right now, we're automotive specific, yes.
Is Techion? I don't know. Is Techion automotive specific?
I would think so. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But there are a lot. But again, this concept even for outside of automotive, there's a lot of the CDPs. There's a lot of CDPs that have been out there in marketing automations. But if you think of, if anyone's ever used Salesforce, has anyone ever used Salesforce? Like their whole thing is built as I'm a hub and you plug everything into it to build it yourself. Automotive is finally getting to that point versus no, this is my tool. No, I'm not sharing. And it's been really phenomenal. I mentioned at our conference in the fall, how many vendors, because they're starting to see the CDP journeys, and you're seeing dealers come in and say, proof of concept. Like Ryan started sharing something at ours maybe 18 months ago, and he saw what the Morgan Auto Group, because they delivered results, and he said, ooh, we're going to do that. Now he's delivering results, and everyone's going, okay, we got to go here. But more importantly, the vendors are saying, we have to be part of this or else we're going to be on the outside. So you're seeing a lot more collaboration in the automotive industry between vendors wanting to partner like a full path, right? Integrating here and there. So that's really exciting. So again, thank you very much. Let's give these a round of applause. Please talk to them up here. Grab them out there, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the conference.